Welcome to Don't Procrastinate, Get Vocal. This is our series so that we can move from procrastination and stopping and starting into flow. And so today we're talking about turning fear into fuel, right? So this is basically how I stopped forcing myself to do things and allowed myself to feel good doing things. And it was a process. It was not something that happened overnight. But the first thing I had to do was to stop forcing myself, stop doing things because I felt like I wasn't good enough, because I felt like if I had to do something to be useful, is pretty much the other translation of that for me. Or that if I didn't do something, something bad would happen to me, or somebody would not like me. One of these things or were often the motivation when I was younger on how I was doing things, and not really how I was doing, but why I was doing things. So moving out of that was really hard because I was waiting until I had to do it. I was pushing myself because it was the only way forward, right? And moving out of that took a lot of time. And it's amazing, like the things that want to shift you back into it. But most likely it's fear that's starting to happen. So first we're going to talk about through some human design elements. This is from our uh, it's the Center for Instinct Spleen. Their Spleen Center in Human Design. So for the Human Design people, go and check out which of these ideas are showing up for you in the gates. They're the literal gates, but we're not talking about gates today. We're just talking about the fear elements and then how you can allow yourself to use what's driving that to move into forward motion instead. And then we're going to talk about how I actually am out get myself to do it, which is not as easy as it seems. That shift point. First, you got to recognize when to shift, which we talked about in the last video. Then we got to decide to shift, right? And then we are understanding what to shift in this fear to flow video. Okay. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Am I sharing? I'm not sharing it. I'm like, shouldn't we be sharing? One second. Here we go. So yes, this is it. Here we go. So we have this feelingness of feeling that we're not enough. This is one of the fears. I'm constantly preparing. This is definitely one of mine. So this is that fear that comes over you. Feel like, no, I have to get another certificate. No, I have to ask somebody with more authority than me and wait for the permission. No, I have to double check that nobody will hate me if I do this, right? Those are that feeling of not enoughness, and that if you do more, even if you try harder, that you can fix it, right? So when we get that fearness happening, what we want to do is to look to our current resources. And if we're alive, we have resources. If the only resource you have is the breath in your lungs, that's a resource. Best to use it because it is a big shift changer, right? If you've done any breath work, you know what I'm talking about. And of course, there's my voice work, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So the second fear of what can go wrong. So here is another one of mine, is that anything could go wrong. I'm a big person when this skill is turned to positivity, I can think of every possibility. I can see possibilities where nobody can see possibilities. When it's in this fear cycle, though, it's like anything could go wrong. Why would I want to even try to do that? Everything could go wrong, right? And the whole world will hate me by the time I'm done with the fear cycling that I can do. Um, so what do we want to do when that happens? This is very important. This is very important. Is to go into your trust of self. Now, a lot of us have not developed this trust. So that's part of the problem, right? It's part of makes it hard to shift out of this. But this is, again, part of why I developed the Omans method, because it gives you a sense of physical trust that very few things can. And if your mind isn't helping you create that, then we have to create it for ourselves physically. And then if you start there, there's something to build on. But ultimately, you want to be able to trust your instincts. You want to be able to trust your intuition, right? And the insights that they give you. And if you're not able to do that, then that is something that you can work on. That will help you for the rest of your life. The more that you can trust that intuition, that instinct, that insight. Okay. The next fear here is the fear of past trauma, right? So fear of trauma reoccurring is what's happening here. And so if you're in current trauma, that means that that's something that's real. It's an actual danger. And so you want to actually address the danger. Not, that's not an emotional problem. That's a real problem, right? If it's something that you're remembering, even if it was an hour ago, even if it was that yesterday, right? And it's causing you in this now moment to not be able to move forward. Again, we might need to get professional assistance with that, but ultimately, we want to forgive. We want to forgive that experience. And that's not always about the other person. That's often about ourselves allowing the experience, whether we could do anything about it or not. Right. But that's why a lot of us are working with a lot of therapists and other people to help us understand how to move through into the experience of forgiveness, because otherwise we will keep reacting. Our bodies will react before we know, right? So that's part of noticing. It's like if I notice that's the pattern, I'm noticing it enough to know when I can do a physical shift. I think the physical shift is much better with actual trauma too, if whether it's emotional or physical. Okay. And that's why emotional freedom technique, EFT, is so popular. And it's never been popular with me, but that's why I have my own method. I need something different. Okay. So you sometimes have to find the right thing to allow you to do that. And also, if you have had that past trauma, then again, getting some people that are around you to support you to help you pick the right next steps. So the right people to be a part of, the right teams to be a part of, the right clients, the right community. So you aren't running into the people that are giving you the similar patterns of that past trauma, because you don't need it, right? It's just going to keep triggering you back into that past experience. And you don't need that, right? It's just going to stop you, slow you down. So these are the things that stop and slow us down. So we want to be able to recognize what they are and know where the shift can happen. And sometimes it is in the people around you. It's to change who's around you, to go somewhere else, to not be around those people, to spend less time with those people, right? This sometimes that is the shift. So the next fear is a fear of failure. So for me, that's a what if they laugh? What if they laugh at me? What if they're gonna laugh? That would suck. Oh my God. This is something that it took me forever to get past. I could not get over that fear for the longest time. The only thing that's fixed that for me personally has been knowing myself better and loving myself and my quirks more than anybody else could. Loving myself for the things that I was embarrassed about. And that took time. That also took time. But again, when we know what needs to shift, a lot of times, even when we're still having those feelings, having those fears, we can look at them and like, I get it. I get it. I don't want to be laughed at either, right? Talk to yourself, like we talked about in the last video. I don't want to be laughed at either. But you know what? It's not about them. It's about the people that we're here to help. It's about the things that we know are burning inside of us to share. That's what we're here for. And the people that laugh, it's obviously not for them. It's not for them, right? So what we want to do is preserve what connects us to our purpose. We know why we are who we are and why we are like we are, and that we we love that, that we trust that we would fight for that even, because that's often what we're doing in our service. We're fighting for the other people who have that and understand that it is beautiful and it is powerful in others. So we also have to choose that for ourselves. We have to choose that for ourselves and cultivate it so that we can understand that that's what we're here for. Like, even if we are afraid that we'll never do it, the joy of just moving towards the world and the things that you want to create in the world bar none. It's the best feeling ever. It's the best feeling ever. All right. The next fear is the fear of authority. So here we tend to be afraid of judgment. The we were talking about this a little bit about the feeling not enough, right? Where we're used to, maybe we've had a doctor, we've gotten our doctorate, so we had to be able to pass the boards, and we had to be able to get that thesis approved, right? There's always a kind of authority that allowed us to move into the next step. And so we sometimes trained ourselves to wait on that permission, right? So when we're moving from our own sovereignty, we have to start retrain ourselves. We are retraining ourselves to move from our own authority. Now, if we say it's good, if we say it's beautiful, if we say it's valuable, if we say it's meaningful, that's what we're moving into. And this comes from integrity. It's just being truthful about what's meaningful to you, right? Just because some rando person with more money and higher clout tells you that it's not the right thing to do, are we believing these people? And if you don't believe them, integrity, part of being in integrity is saying that I don't agree with you. I feel that this is the truth. This is my understanding. This is my experience. This is my version of wisdom and truth. To be in integrity, will speak to that as necessary in the times and spaces that it feels aligned for us, right? And if we're not able to, a lot of times that means there's some kind of throat chakra trauma. So that's what my specialty is. And so if you feel that way, if you feel like you're blocking your throat chakra, often it's also the sacral, which is our creative chakra. And so we're having this stagnation of anything that is of us to come out into the world, whether that be our words or our work, right? So that's my specialty there. Fear of responsibility, fear of success taking away the freedom that you have. So whatever that version of freedom is, sometimes the fear of responsibility and are they're not the same thing, but they feel the same. I'm kidding. They come two sides of the same coin. Let's call it like that, right? Responsibility is saying that, like, I'm not, what if I fail and to meet that responsibility? A fear of success is that if I do, then what will I lose? Right. So whether that's the current relationship dynamic, because again, authority when power shifts, whether it's perceived or not, whether it's fictional or not, like it shifts patterns in relationships. And so we're afraid of rocking the boat, so to speak, in that way, and the relationships we already have. So there's that. There's also time freedom. There's kind of like, well, if I'm successful, then I'll be spending more time in this area. Do I want to spend more time in this area? This is where I find a lot of people get stuck in entrepreneurship because they are doing something that they really don't want to do. And then they realize that they may not realize they start self-sabotaging what they're doing because they don't want to do it. Right? So, like, if you don't want to do it, you definitely don't want to do more of it. So, getting better, having more success, that's just, it's a really hard hill to climb if you are resenting the time it's taking away from other things, not feeling like you're getting any joy out of it, and therefore lacking energy. It's how it's a great formula for burnout. Okay. So This is about getting confident and secure of like what really is underlying it. So we're looking for balance. We're looking for our balance in our patterns and our seasons. We're looking for alignment with our values so that we are doing the things that we're actually interested in doing and are meaningful to us, or they are priority adjacent. In other words, like what was meaningful to us is very much connected to the task that you are doing in the now or in the action of getting it done. And if it's not, then a lot of times that's where we're bleeding energy, right, in that space. So sometimes all you need to do is connect it. And at least that's what's worked for me. So we need to get confident in that. We need to know ourselves enough to know what we need to be connecting in order to for it to be that fuel that we're talking about. So that's the thing that like whatever is triggering, whatever story, whatever is triggering the fear is the where the knob is to turn it into the fuel, right? So if it's that fear of responsibility, then create rules in your business that allow you to be flexible in that responsibility or state up front that you actually aren't somebody who does something in a in the way that maybe somebody may be expecting in that responsibility, that you do it specifically in a specific way for a specific reason. And the people that want to work with you will understand that. And if we're upfront with that, then everybody wins. Everybody wins. Okay. So how do we shift these things? Like once we know we have to shift it, how do we shift it? For me, that is the Oman's method. So it's that first is the pause. So if you haven't ever heard of pausing, you got to stop. You just got to stop for a good hot minute. You got to stop for a good hot minute and breathe. Right. So in my method, we breathe out first, then we make some sounds, and then we do some humming. And there's 1,000 different reasons why this works. But in my method, you can get this done in 5 minutes. And we all worried about time lately, but 5 minutes is not too much time to spend on living the life you're here to live, right? So if you haven't seen my Oman's Method yet, please check out my voice lesson series. We start each of those with the Oman's Method. And I walk people through kind of everybody does it a little differently. Everybody has their own patterns. And so sometimes you got to kind of shift how we associate even breathing to start moving into some better energetic frameworks for your nervous system. So that is available to you if you are ready to go. If you know you want to get connected at minimum, go ahead and check out my links in the description box below and let's chat and let's talk about doing something cool moving forward. March 3rd, we're going to start talking about living your myth. We'll talk a little bit more on the next video, but that exciting piece is about really understanding what we are looking to do in our legacy, right? And what does that look like? So the next video is really about how does it actually look and what does it feel like to be in flow? What is flow state, number one? But then how do we know we're in it? And then how do we not sabotage ourselves that when we're in it? Because sometimes it may not look the way you think it should look. They're like everything. There's seasons and stages of that process. So we got to allow ourselves to experience it. So I will see you on the next video for the path of flow.